This is your place for all things Detroit Red Wings and all things Chicago Blackhawks. With your hosts, Jordan Linscott, David Barnhouse, Nick LePage, and Tim Stompanato. This is the Stick Blade Podcast. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Stick Blade Podcast. It is your place for all things Detroit Red Wings, all things Chicago Blackhawks, and news around the NHL. The Olympics are over for the hockey world, at least. The NHL is back on schedule for this grind of the regular season. Tonight, we're here to talk about the Red Wings and the Blackhawks. I am your host for tonight, Jordan Linscott, and for my co-hosts, David Barnhouse, Nick LePage, and Tim Stompanato. This is another edition of the Stick Blade Podcast. It's been a 2-week hiatus, boys?
Yeah, damn near forgot my name.
I had like a brain fart for a second. I'm like, I know this guy's name. I'm about to say it.
Who is this schmuck?
Geez, we've been gone for a week and Jordan's forgetting about us already.
All right. Glad we're back
busy
on.
Valentine's,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's good to be back, boys. A 1-week hiatus and refresh the brains a little bit. I know last week was a big episode for the Hawks wise, and glad we got some Wings news now to cover up this week.
Right, yeah. I mean, we needed this week to kind of, I think, gather up some things to talk about.
Yeah, for sure.
And I realized, because we took, like we said, Valentine's off, as I was making dinner, like for the first time in my new kitchen, I realized we're all at different points this Valentine's Day, like in our relationship wise. Like I'm the long-term married person. Jordan, you're freshly married. Tim, you're freshly engaged. And Nick, you're in a newer relationship.
Yeah, it's like the cycles of life. Just roll over, just do the podcast.
The different levels of Valentine.
You got the old guy over here.
I mean, I had an old guy move for Valentine's Day. We just stayed in and cooked it. I just cooked dinner.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Made steak.
Yeah, that's what I did.
We had crab and some shrimps.
Jordan, what about you? Since we're on Valentine's.
Yeah, what would you do for Valentine's?
I mean, shoot, me and the lady, honestly, we went out to Applebee's and had a drink or two, but that was really it. Everybody who's watching this, if you wanted to test a real Valentine's gift, just have a nice dinner. You don't have to go out somewhere fancy. It's gonna be $300 a plate or whatever. Just have a nice meal. And you can really gauge it at that point.
I bought 2 New York strip steaks, cooked some Brussels sprouts in the oven. Oh, delicious.
Perfectly reasonable dinner. That's a great dinner.
I love it. Yeah. Shoot. Listen, if you've got the one, you can go to Denny's or something like that. Get yourself a couple of Grand Slams. And if it's the one, it's going to be a beautiful Valentine's. That's
White Castle. You got to reserve your seat there.
Get yourself a Crave case for 2.
You say Denny's, and it brings me back to the hit classic Santa Claus with Tim Allen. When he ruins the Christmas dinner and takes his kid to Denny's.
Denny's just reminds me of 3 a.m. drunk runs there.
I mean, yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, it's the only place I can get a cup of coffee at midnight getting off work.
Oh, jeez.
But we hope everyone of you guys had a good Valentine's Day and that you guys have enjoyed, the past couple of weeks getting to watch the players of the Olympics play. But like I said, the NHL's back to the regular grind. Just walking through really quick what our show is going to look like tonight. On the Wings front for news, Gemel Smith gets put on waivers and surprise, surprise, claimed back by the Tampa Bay Lightning. You kind of saw it coming, but it was kind of cool to get to watch him play with his brother Giovanni for a minute with the Wings. Also, the Wings send Veleno to Grand Rapids. It's not quite sure whether this is strictly a paper move or not. We'll see. And looking at coming 2 games that are coming up. Larkin and Bertuzzi are on pace for 40 goals apiece. And for anybody who doesn't really follow stats that close, the Wings haven't had a 40-goal scorer since 1994. So kind of a big deal. Moritz Seider, we talk about him and praise him every single week. I saw this really interesting stat breakdown online. He's in the top 20 percentile category of just about everything around the league for defensemen. If he was tied to a true middle pair defenseman, he'd be a Norris candidate as a rookie. That's crazy. Troy Stetcher is back with the Detroit Red Wings, and also Jacob Vrana is doing contact drills with the club. So we should be seeing him back soon. And then also a really fun thing to look at for the rebuild for the Red Wings. They hold 3 of the top 5 under 21 scores in the Swedish Hockey League. That's a pretty good sign for a rebuild, given some of the great players who've came out of the SHL and became NHL superstars.
Very cool. Very, very exciting for you. That feels great. must be nice to have prospects and a deep pool. I don't know. I'm a little salty.
For the Blackhawks, there are a couple pieces of news to talk about though as well. They have officially parted ways with Bobby Hall as an ambassador for the organization. They talked, about during the town hall, about changing the culture and things that are going on with the club. This kind of seems like the natural progression in that, that direction. There's a lot to break down just why this happened, but we'll get into that a little bit as we're talking about that. Also, Kirby Dach is starting to finally bounce back towards, the player that he was drafted and expected to be. A little bit of a discussion that I think we're going to have, is he going to be a long-term centerman, or might he go the route of, transitioning to the wing position and maybe being better in that regard, like a lot of other players around the NHL have been. Like, maybe he's not a centerman after all, and maybe the Hawks have to look elsewhere. Also, Lucas Reichel getting recalled to the Blackhawks, getting a cup of coffee with the club. And finally, Alec Regula getting his first game with the Hawks this year, if I remember correct.
That is correct. He got his first 2 games with the Hawks this year.
So yeah, something kind of cool for him as well. And again, the Hawks just, starting to look at all these prospects that they want to have coming to the pipeline eventually. Around the NHL, Jack Eichel is officially playing with the Vegas Golden Knights, and I believe he scored, 2 goals with them, or was it just the one?
Just the one.
But either way, he's back skating with the Vegas Golden Knights, so that's also like some kind of note that I think is noteworthy. It was something that the Buffalo Sabres are kind of looking at that surgery on his disc, and we're saying, well, we don't know. Shocker. The doctors were right. He'd have
been back with the club. That's so frustrating. I'm so glad he's with another team.
Nathan MacKinnon slashing referees is, like, if you don't like the refs, just take them out with the stick, I guess. It's kind of talking about what's going to have to happen with that.
Such a bad move.
And then Tuukka Rask retires from the NHL. A long career with the Boston Bruins, but he's officially gone. It's kind of like a chapter moving forward in the Boston Bruins book. But that's going to be our show for tonight, everybody. So let's go ahead and just start right now with the Wings news. First, Gemel Smith goes on waivers and he gets claimed by the Tampa Bay Lightning. We kind of talked about this, this is like a true fourth line guy who the Wings kind of picked up. Maybe might have some chemistry with Giovanni Smith, but honestly, it was like hey, we're going to give this guy a shot, see if it works out. David, I don't know if you watched the game or not, but I wasn't overly impressed with his play. Like, he wouldn't look bad, but he didn't look like he was moving the needle at all.
No, I think between the two brothers, I think Giovanni is the better all-around player for us. Gemel to me feels more just like an AHL player who can come up and fill a spot, which that's what he basically did for us, but he just wasn't cutting it for the team. It was nice having the two brothers together, but he just wasn't there for us when we could be calling up other players.
Mm-hmm. Like, it's nothing personal, or like, it wasn't like he was a bad player, just didn't make the team better. And that's one thing that Blashill and Yzerman have sort of, they've been preaching through this rebuild is it's not about, are you better than so-and-so? It's, do you make this team overall better? And I don't know if he really did. So you know what? He got waived. Tampa Bay takes him back again. Yeah, basically, he had a cup of coffee.
Yeah, I'm happy he's, back on a team. It's not like he just got cut and is not going anywhere. Right. And, Tampa obviously still kind of sees something for him for them. And they're a great team. So, good for him.
Yeah, he got to live they got to live out their childhood dream, brothers playing together.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool moment for their parents. So, sucks for Giovanni though. It's probably like, I only got one game with my brother, but
it is what it is.
Cool story though that they got together for their couple.
I don't know. Right. I kind of love the trend right now of like, there's a lot of players that have been claimed off waivers in the last couple of days. Mm-hmm. That's exciting. I like action, and I hate when 20 players go on waivers, all of them clear, even though there are teams that could use a goalie or a depth piece, whatever. I'm glad that a couple of players the last couple of games, even like Gemel Smith, that can, if you need that depth player, someone to come up, he serves a really great role. And like, if you need him, you've got him now. It's good to see GMs making these sort of moves off the waiver wire right now.
Like the other thing about like a lot of these waiver moves that we're seeing right now is I feel like it's a good test of GMs to sort of like look at guys who go on the waivers and say like, hey, how good are they at evaluating depth pieces? Because like usually superstars obviously don't get waived, but
right.
A lot of depth players do get waived throughout their careers before they really start to become depth players.
Yeah, I mean the journeymen are typically, they're NHL caliber guys, just that they don't fit in with that current roster essentially. But yeah, it's kind of cool. Like Tim was saying, you don't really see the waivers get utilized as much. Just kind of like the RFA.
Yeah.
Tendering an RFA contract. So it's kind of cool, like to see this gentleman's agreement that probably what the waivers are. It's like, hey, I really want this guy in my organization, just don't want him on my NHL team. Like, okay. So yeah, it's cool to see stuff like that being used and utilized how it's supposed to be.
Well, and what's interesting to me is like a lot of times there's a lot of GMs that are like, okay, we can put this person through. I think they can sneak through. There's just sort of this gentleman's agreement, which I can't stand, of like, they're going to let him pass. Like he's going to go through. But you see Gemel Smith got picked up. Dzingel got traded from Arizona to Toronto. They waive him thinking they can sneak him down to the Marlies. San Jose says, hey, wait a minute. Are you kidding me? Like we could use him. Like he's a middle six guy for sure. That's the kind of stuff that I'm excited about. It makes it more strategic if you don't think you can just get the person through a waiver. Like you've really got to think now, who can we sneak through or who do we have to put through?
Another quick piece of news that we can talk about for the Wings. Joe Veleno gets put on the Grand Rapids Griffin roster. Jeez, Pete, I'm tongue-tied tonight.
You're doing great, bud. I got you.
So I know a lot of Wings fans have been like, why is Joe Veleno going to Grand Rapids? We mentioned this last week, but this was so that he can continue to get reps because the team had, one game last week?
Yeah.
They had one game last week. And we don't even know if he's coming back to the NHL or not this week. Like he could very well play against Colorado on Wednesday. Like I think it's more useful to have a guy like Joe Veleno, who you're going to probably project to be a real middle six center when all is said and done, playing in Grand Rapids, getting, 4 or 5 games as opposed to one game at the NHL where he gets to play top line center for the Grand Rapids Griffins. I just think that's a lot better for a development, like pathway for a guy. And honestly, like we said this last week, Joe Veleno is not an AHL caliber player. He's already a proven NHL guy. It's just keep letting him get reps instead of just having him sit around. Like he's still got the chance to keep growing. Let him keep growing.
For sure.
100% agree with you, Jordan. I'm thinking the same thing. Like we've only had one game. He played in that game, looked all right in that game. Like he wasn't standing out like, oh man, Joe Veleno sucks. And I agree. I think what's better for him right now? Skating around, practicing right now, or actually getting competition in the AHL where we see he's been pretty dominant in the last few games he's played in. And that's going to help, boost his ego, so to speak. Like, all right, I can kick butt down here. Why don't I transition that more? I mean, it's what we did with Zadina. We sent him down and he grew and developed more. And, he's finally starting to get that touch that we're hoping he can have. And he had a pretty good goal the other night, if I recall.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's going to stay down. I'm willing to bet he's going to be playing against Colorado this week.
Yeah, it's just logistics at this point. You want your younger guys playing as much hockey as they possibly can. I mean, that's what helped guys like Kane grow up too. I mean, he played in every possible tournament he was able to.
Yeah.
So, it's just logistics for Joe Veleno. Like go down because Grand Rapids is a quick trip from Detroit too. So, just go down there, get much time as you can, play top line minutes, go compete, and when we need you up here, well, you have your spot.
Well, I mean, that's the cool thing with Veleno, right? Like he's at a point where he can hang in the show, but his development wise, he can still gain a lot from being in the AHL. And so this is the best of both worlds. Like, yeah, send him down, let him play a couple of games. He can go down without having to clear waivers. Awesome. And, get him time there. He can keep doing his thing. And when we need him, back on up. I say we, of course, I mean you, because we don't get access to Joe Veleno, apparently. Crazy how that works.
One thing that I think is really important to talk about this week, and I think this is probably the most important piece of news that we have to talk about. Dylan Larkin and Tyler Bertuzzi are both on pace for 40 goals this season. I mentioned this at the top of the episode, but the Wings haven't had a 40 goal scorer since 1994. This is huge for their rebuild in terms of looking at what they might have and just sort of like hey, we have great pieces on this team. Like we have the potential.
Yeah, it brings me back to preseason when we had Max Boltman on the show, and he's like, the Wings are missing that star caliber scorer. Well, guess what? We might actually have two that are already on the team in Tyler and Dylan, which means if they can keep those numbers up, we won't have to go out and spend to bring in a player like that. And then we can spend that money in other areas that will help grow us, like defensemen, another center to kind of get things going, which if Bertuzzi and Larkin, keep that up and they do hit those 40 goal marks, and it's not a fluke like Anthony Mantha, we have something going.
I mean, that is my big question right now as someone who semi-casually I'm watching the Red Wings games that I've watched. You've got two people who are for the first time potentially going to hit 40 goals each. What's the drop off of your other scoring? Like, are they compensating for the fact that you don't have a lot of depth score? Like, that's my concern. Anytime you've got two people getting close to 40 goals, it makes me immediately wonder what's the rest of the forwards doing. And I guess that if one of those does cool off, if there's a shooting percentage that's way higher than average and it regresses to the mean, any of those things, is there enough firepower to compensate for that and sort of balance it out as a stable team?
I mean, they have a potential another 40 goals. I mean, I know we're gonna kind of transition to that in a little bit, but I mean, Jakub Vrana is one of those guys who could pop 40 as well. So no, it's cool to see. I mean, it's mind blowing to know that you haven't had one since 1994. Just like
1994.
With the teams you guys can.
That's my thing, too, right?
That just shows how well rounded those old Detroit teams used to be. It's like even in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, like it was just a well rounded team.
Everybody was
everybody was contributing. Like there wasn't one guy just carrying a line. Like everybody had a role, and they were all fulfilling that role. So, but yeah, mind blowing. That's awesome to know. Dylan Larkin, obviously, Tyler Bertuzzi's coming into his own. Does that so there's a 40, not even joking, but does the 40 goal score pace, does that include the time he's gonna miss in like next month or so for like
any team in Canada?
That I don't know about Bertuzzi. I mean, obviously Larkin shouldn't be missing games barring injury, but I don't know. I'd have to look at like how that's factored in. But I mean, even if it's not, that's still like in the mid 30s for goals.
Sure. No, it's still a great pace.
But it does beg the question. Again, the thing that I think we talked about in the preseason, if you're in the playoffs, say you make it to the playoffs by, whatever, and you're playing the Canadians or you're playing somebody like that, one of your 40 goal scorers might not be available for a couple of games. I don't know. That makes me sweat, but that's neither here nor there. Anytime there's a 40 goal scorer on a team that isn't really in the playoffs, it just makes me wonder about the rest of the team, not taking away from Bertuzzi or Larkin. Does that make sense? Does that am I talking out of left field?
I get that. Like, it's a great thing, but it does kind of, I think, raise some red flags about are we going to be, I mean, we're not that, but are we the Colorado Avalanche in the sense of, are we a two-line team?
If you've got two players that are racking up that many goals that are on trajectory, and then you've got Seider, you've got some great goaltending, are you Jacob Vrana away from being a playoff? Like, you should be in playoff contention in my mind if you've got 2 potential 40-goal scorers.
I mean, looking at you got Larkin 26, Bertuzzi 23, Raymond, Fabry, and Nemestikov all at 13. So that's above a 20 goal.
That's good.
And then Pius Suter at 11. And then that's where like the real drop off is. It's Rasmussen 6, Zadina 6, Seider 5. So like the bottom half is just kind of like bottom out. But like there's 6 guys right there that are putting up like 20 goal numbers. So
yeah, I mean, that's a good sign for, not to be the downer of the group, but like that's exciting trajectory wise. It shows that you guys are 1,000% on the right path. And this team is so much more electrifying than it was last year, certainly 2 years ago.
Mhm.
I think it just highlights the areas now that you have to shore up the holes now.
Yeah, it's the Wings have to find other players who can shore up those goals when those guys aren't there. Like
or at least not be a sieve. You
Right.
know, that's the big thing.
Yeah, I was thinking about like the goal scoring, like we were talking about, and I'm just looking back at that 93-94 season, and I was not expecting the second player on our team. I was like, it's Fedorov, and I was thinking Yzerman.
Sure.
It was not Yzerman. It was Ray Shepard.
Yeah, he was a 50-goal scorer at one point, wasn't he?
Jesus.
They both. So Sergei Fedorov had 56 goals, 64 assists, 120 points, and Ray Shepard had 52 goals, 41 assists.
But man,
I don't even remember Ray Shepard, and that's.
I mean, he did get traded pretty early into like the Wings like playoff runs. Like, what was he? 94 was the year he got traded, right? Or 95?
Let me look. Ray Shepard.
What's so interesting, because the 94-95 season, I think, was the NHL lockout.
We traded him 95-96 to San Jose.
Interesting.
But I know, like, it's an awesome thing to be able to say the Wings have 2 potential 40-goal scorers on their team, but at the same time, like, I mean, I think you're actually kind of right, Sam. It is kind of worrisome that the rest of the team is so far below them. Like,
are they though? That's the thing. Like,
and it's not like, again, I don't want to be the downer that's like, hey, you've got a bunch of deficiencies on your team. I can't talk. I'm a Hawks fan. That said, to me, David, you're a teacher. It's one of those things that I used to go back to when I was teaching, where I'd say, I can't give you notes unless I see something. Like, I need you to give me something to grade. Mm-hmm. Now, the Red Wings are producing a product that you can now look at and say, okay, these are the areas that we need to improve and shore up. 2 years ago, and even last year, it was just, I need to fix the whole thing. I guess that's my thing. I would like, if you've got Seider, if you've got the goaltending, if you've got these phenomenal goal scorers, you know, even counting that Vrana's been out, what's keeping you from playoffs?
I'm not so worried as much in terms of the goal scoring.
Is it the defense?
It is.
I think it's got to be the defense.
That I guess that's my question: is what is it?
It's the defense. I mean, we have Mo Seider, who is
phenomenal.
Number one defenseman stud.
But then who's under him? Nicoletti, he's okay.
What happened to Hronic?
He's not terrible. Hronic is not really a defensive player in my mind. He's an offensive
defenseman. And we've talked about,
his defensive skills are not what you need. Like, he's good, but he's not a defensive player. He's got the offensive mind like a quarterback, like a Nick Lidstrom quarterback type player, but he doesn't have the defensive capabilities of a Nick Lidstrom. I think Mo Seider continues to develop. He could come close to what we remember of Lidstrom being this phenomenal offensive, but also phenomenal defensive player. We have them. Danny DeKeyser.
No, please no.
No. Lindstrom, nah.
Lindstrom, I think, pans out as a middle pair guy at best when all is said and done.
I mean, you have, in terms of like tiers, your S, A, B, B, C, whatever. Mo Seider is our only guy that would be in that S or A tier. I think Hronik's a B tier and then everybody else is C and below.
Does Edvinsson coming in next year change everything? Like, is that what you're needing to shift everyone else into where they need to be?
I think so. I think Edvinsson comes in, and if he plays like we joked about with Seider, if Seider plays like 75% of the level he was in the SHL, he's going to be great in the wings, and he's exceeding our expectations.
For 100%.
He is the favorite for the Calder. I don't agree with the Zegras. But Zegras is a talented player.
Zegras has phenomenal moments. He's a highlight reel guy, but
and that's like one in three games. He shows up and does these great things. Seider is there every minute, every game, every single game. You see him for what he is. What game was that, Jordan? This past couple weeks, where he basically just like killed an entire penalty by himself.
Oh, you're talking about what was it? Was it the?
I sent it to you guys.
I know you're talking about
the Flyers. It was the
Flyers game.
He like just skated around them with the puck. Like he's like, no, I'm gonna kill this.
This is mine now.
I took it back from you. I'm gonna skate back around into my end and skate past you again. Like that right there is the signature on the Calder Cup for me. Like that's it.
And like it's actually kind of something else to talk about. But I mean, while we're talking about Seider, I mean, it's crazy to think about this, but like looking at his analytics, he's in the top 20 percentile of every single category when it comes to defensemen, except for like goal scoring. That's ridiculous for a rookie who is stapled to Danny DeKeyser, who Danny DeKeyser is in the bottom 20 percentile of almost every single analytics category. That's nuts.
Who are the favorites for the Norris Trophy?
I don't have them in front of me right now. I don't have it.
Makar.
It's got to be like Makar. It's got to be
Fox, I'm sure,
Fox, probably.
Hedman.
Yeah, Makar, Fox, Hedman are probably your top three this year.
Fox, Makar are the favorites.
No surprise to you. I mean, it's a goal. It's a point production defensive.
That said,
trophy.
all three of those defensemen, none of them are a Brent Burns. None of them are an Eric Carl. Like, they're not offensive defensemen that sacrifice defense to score.
Oh no,
points.
they're well-rounded.
You're right though. Like that's the knock on. I think they should split the like into an offensive defenseman and like defensive. Like I don't know. It's weird trying to compete.
I'm looking at the current betting odds for the trophy, and I'm a little disappointed that Mo Seider's not even like in the betting odds.
I mean, like I said, it's so hard because like he's not in like the top 10 or top 5 percentile of defensemen, and it's kind of unfair to him because he's stapled to a guy who's in the bottom 20 percentile.
But how many times has that happened to like even forwards that could have a Hart caliber potential year, but they're on Buffalo? Like how many years was Jack Eichel my dark horse like Hart Trophy candidate? That happened. You need to be on a bubble team where like you've willed your team to the playoffs, or you're McDavid.
Yeah, I know it's crazy though. Like this is a legit discussion that the league's having.
Yeah,
like there are defensemen who are coming into the league at this point who are this dominant now. Like it's nuts that we're seeing this. Like Cale Makar had an explosive rookie season. Seider's having one. Who was the defenseman a couple of years ago who was having the great breakout season?
Heiskanen had a phenomenal rookie. Again, I'm trying to think of
Heiskanen. Adam Fox came right in the league and lit it on fire.
Quinn Hughes was also a nominee for the Calder. I mean, I think there's something to be said that every single one of those guys, I don't remember Fox, but everyone else took a year in college or in juniors or in the professional league in Europe, whatever one they were in. There's something to be said for that they're not coming straight into the NHL, which we've talked about 1,000 times. Forwards, they're more likely to. Defensemen take a year or whatever. I think part of what makes Mo Seider so stinking good is that he spent an entire season playing in a legitimate professional league, honing his skills. He didn't come in at 18. He came in at 19, 20, whatever he is now. with another year of not playing against children under his belt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Fox, I know for a fact he was in college.
Heiskanen definitely took a year.
Because I know Fox had that kind of weird 2 off seasons where he got traded from the Flames to go to Carolina, and he he told Carolina, "I'm not signing there. I want to go to the Rangers," and he traded to the Rangers. But yeah, it's interesting to see like these defensemen. Yeah, they develop, but like they always used to be like, all right, the first few years or first year or so of the NHL, like they're gonna struggle. But now you're seeing these guys come in, like even with the development, like it's great to see that they're making an impact right away.
100%. And that again, I don't want to take away for every Adam Fox, for every Mo Seider, for every Cale Makar, Heiskanen, there are 100 defensemen that need years to what they're doing is remarkable.
That shows Seider's capability. Like he's a general.
I think he's a generator. I don't think it's unreasonable to call him a generational talent.
Yeah.
Because this is the kind of person that you build a blue line around. That's your anchor.
That's your Hedman.
Yeah, that's your Duncan Keith in his prime. Like, it's phenomenal.
To think he was a reach at one point.
I even remember on a Wings Reddit, everyone was like, Steve could have traded back to like 10th or 13th and grabbed this guy.
Yeah, I bet you're happy you didn't take that risk now.
Yeah. You want what you want, you see him and you take it. I love it.
Mm-hmm. We can move on and other Wings news. Troy Stetcher and Jacob Vrana are back with the Wings. Stetcher is actually playing games. Jacob Vrana is doing contact drills, which are basically controlled at this point. Like the Wings are basically doing drills with him and they're planning the hits that he's getting hit with, which it's kind of weird that teams plan hits, but you kind of do it to get a player used to that idea.
The impact.
Troy Stetcher, for all things considered, I thought he didn't actually look that bad coming back with the Wings. Like he wasn't, I don't think the Troy Stetcher from last season who had like sneakily really good underlying numbers, but I didn't think he looked that bad, all things considered.
Yeah, I mean, back to our defenseman talk, that's another piece that you're missing too. It's like,
you slot him back.
He played a big role for Detroit last year. Like he was one of the bright spots in a really tough year. Yeah. So it's good to see him back. And then as for Vrana too, I mean, it's exciting. I know we kind of talked about him before, how he's a potential 40-goal scorer in the making. But yeah, it's big. It's big. It's important for your guys' depth throughout the lineup.
I guess my question is, when Vrana comes back, who goes out?
That's a tough one.
I mean,
I'm trying to think because like they've got Larkin, Raymond, and Zadina all on the top line. And honestly, I think Zadina has looked a lot better now that he has a like bona fide playmaker and Dylan Larkin with him.
100%.
And Raymond with him.
Like Raymond, you're not going to separate Larkin and Raymond. Those two have had fantastic chemistry all season.
Which is great because Bertuzzi
can drive a line. He can drive a line.
And that's what you've needed on your second line.
Like he can carry that second line. And that's what I love. Like it's like when and I'm not comparing Larkin and Bertuzzi to Zetterberg and Datsuk.
But it is like a 1-2 punch deal. Like you can separate them and they're both still good.
Like those two were fantastic on the same line together. I mean, they were called the Euro twins for a reason, but separating them to do different lines allowed whoever was where could just really carry that second line. And I think that's what we're seeing right now with Bert and Larkin. Like together, fantastic. Separated, still fantastic. And Bertuzzi being paired with your Suter and your Fabry or whoever they want to put down there. Imagine Bertuzzi with Vrana, or you shift. It's just with Vrana back, the line we can get the Blashill.
They can have 3 real lines.
I'm just so curious if your second line center is Suter or Fabry.
It's got to be Suter. Suter's a real center. Fabry's like a fill-in center.
And then Fabry on the third line is a winger, and he punches up the third line.
Which is scary because Fabry on a third line could really dominate.
100%. You put him, Rasmussen, and somebody
Mesnikov
else
would work as a third line center.
Is great. He's perfectly serviceable third line.
I flippin' love Laddie. I'm sorry, you said his name, and I just think of him just pounding the crap out of opposing players, and just those gritty goals he scores. And I don't want to lose him.
I think he's gone, though. I think the Wings get something very good for him.
Yeah, I think that's probably your biggest trade piece, honestly, right now.
But we don't need to.
No,
well,
but
you do though, because where does Veleno go?
That's what these teams. I know it's hard. You get attached to these guys.
I
but, like,
mean, because listen, I actually,
that's why he was brought here, is because they're like, hey, this is an interesting piece. It's a bargain deal, and he's probably something we could flip. I mean,
Domestikov's great.
I mean,
I'm
the
still
teams
not
are gonna
over-
pay for a 20-goal scoring guy.
I'm still not over losing Glenny, and this will hurt a lot.
For sure, but like I don't see where Veleno comes back unless you get rid of somebody in the top 9, because you're not going to put him on your 4th line.
no, Veleno's not being done any favors playing bottom line.
And I don't know if you put Rasmussen on your 4th line. I mean, I guess you can. He could be a shutdown guy, but like
That's the thing. We've started games with a Rasmussen line to kind of shut down a team's first line. Rasmussen could be the new Chris Draper.
Yeah, he could be.
That's not unrealistic.
Where Draper wasn't going to light up your score sheet every night, but he was going to shut down opposing teams. I mean, I love Chris Draper. Chris Draper and Danny Clear are 2 of my favorite players in the
and
past
for good reason.
because of they're
efficient players.
Yes. And Rasmussen could develop into a player like that. He's not going to be your superstar highlight reel goal scorer, but he's going to be the guy that you send out to get things done. And I think putting Rasmussen with a guy like Fabry, who I think Nick or Tim said a second ago, that could be fun to watch, because you have
I'd love that.
Rasmussen who shuts things down and can control play, and then Fabry who can just put some goals in nets. Like, that's exciting. But yeah, where does Veleno go? Do we trade Vladdy? How are things going to shift when Vrana gets back? It's an interesting predicament, one I'm excited about.
It's a good problem to have.
It's a
sure.
great problem to have.
It's the opposite of the Hawks problem.
The Wings, honestly, I think their search at the forward position, aside from that other center with Larkin, I think it's almost done. Like, I don't really know what forward besides that second line center position, that other true second center to pair with Larkin. I don't know what else they really need. Like, Tim, Nick, like, when you guys look at the Wings makeup, aside from another fantastic center, what are they missing? Because I can't think of anything.
No, I think it's just defense. I think it's a well-rounded defense. I mean, don't get me wrong, though. There's still bright, like Mark Stahl, a guy you really didn't expect much of. He's top 3 and plus minus on that team. Like, he's a +10 guy.
I love what Stahl brings to that. And I've said that before. Again, I'm a idiot for the intangibles. But like, he's bringing tangibles this year. No, I think like you said, Nick, Mark Stahl's been a pleasant surprise at the very least.
I think just like a top end D man is probably what you get one top end D man with Seider, who it might be Edvinsson next year. So
it might be Edvinsson, or you put Seider and Leddy together and you put Edvinsson with somebody on the second. Like, you get stable pairings. It shifts everybody down one. Maybe it frees Hronek up more to play his game and not have to be relied on so defensively. Right now, I think you've got a lot of pieces. Like, it's just a matter of translating it from paper to, maybe you get that second line center, maybe you round out, but like, you've got good rounding. If a Joe Veleno reaches his potential, if he is truly a top 9 guy, if Rasmussen brings a little more score, like, there's a lot of what ifs right now. But I think it's on development.
Yeah.
You need guys to take that next step, and you've got a good team. It's just getting there.
Yeah. I mean, just from the outside view, it's like one big defenseman and maybe just more. It's a young team too. So maybe like a veteran, 20 goal guy. I mean, I know you have a couple of the 20, like maybe the 30 goal, like you have the 2 top end 40 goal guys. You need a 30 goal guy to throw in between there. And
shoot, I miss Bobby Ryan on that team, to be entirely honest.
So just like one defenseman and like a top 4 defenseman, because you have it's kind of like what the Hawks had in 2018, 2019. They had like NHL defensemen, but they weren't 1 and 2s. They were 3, they were 4 or 5
You had a
and
whole
6s.
thing. Yeah, exactly.
So and besides Seider, that's what you guys have is a bunch of 4s, a bunch of 5s, and a bunch of 6s.
And I guess that was my question when we were talking about the 40-goal scorers is, hey, like I'm looking at this team and I'm seeing where all these pieces are. Why aren't you a playoff team? And that's, I think we've hit the nail on that. We need one more. You need one more like top defenseman that can carry it. You know, the Hawks in 2015 were kept alive by our top 3 defensemen, the top 4, but really top 3 defensemen. You need that to shore that up, and really just one more forward that can share the load.
It might have been Vrana. Like you guys are 10 points.
Man, you're
the
right.
Next team. You're the next team in right now. But I mean, it's a 10-point difference.
I mean, yeah, but Vrana could help with that. I don't know how many games you guys had where it was 1 or 2 goal differences. Like that could have been Vrana.
It could have helped Zadina's performance too. I know he kind of got like there was that
period of time he was on the
puck luck
line.
wasn't on his side too. So it's just like the Wings were good this year. They weren't good enough for I mean, I know there's still a lot of time, but barring a miraculous run, they weren't good enough for the playoffs. And they didn't play bad enough to go get that elite level center and Shane Wright next year.
I just don't want to rely on an uncharacteristic season from multiple guys. Because you hit that, you strike gold, and then what happens?
All right.
Yeah, if you get one person to share the load, I think you've got a lot of stability.
And I mean, you think they played themselves. They're going to be outperforming Connor Bedard and Matej Michkov next year. So it's like, yeah, it's good to see progress, but it's like shit. Like you're not going to get that number 1.
That said, you can find the piece that they're looking for in that middle, that 6 to 17 slot. You can find that one more piece that can share the load.
Dylan Larkin was the 15th pick of his draft.
I know it's too early to count, but Lucas Reichel is looking really good at 17. I mean, it doesn't have to be Shane Wright or Bedard, but you're right. No, Nick, you've got a great point. Like you're doing good enough, but you're also shooting yourself in I don't know. It's a tricky one.
Especially with this year's draft, it's just like this is well regarded. Like it's not like it's top heavy, like the first 5. And after that, it's like a shit show. So it's like,
I mean,
next year's is deep. So like, but yeah, this is the year you'd want the top 5 pick to have that surefire guy. But now it's like, who knows? I mean, they still have a chance. They still have a chance.
That's good to know, though. Since the Hawks don't have a first round pick this year.
Yeah,
next year they'll have it again.
Yeah, next year's a heavy draft. This year's
great. You know, whatever. We got
And then speaking of prospects wise, though, Jordan, what you got? 3 big ones over there in the overseas, right?
Yeah, the Wings have 3 of the top 5 under 21 scorers over in the Swedish Hockey League. It's so important to have like prospects in your pipeline who should be at one point in their careers difference makers. The Wings have some great ones over in Sweden right now. And I mean, we haven't really seen these guys over in the NHL, but even if these guys pan out to be like bottom 6 guys or like bottom pair guys, cool. Those are guys, again, you're not having to find in free agency or trade for. You can keep saving your picks for those guys or like the salary for them. This is huge to have. Like maybe one of these guys pans out and has like what's the guy from the Tampa Bay Lightning who took like 3 or 4 years to make their team?
Wait,
was it Drouin?
I mean, Druin's who I'm thinking of.
Yeah, Jonathan Drouin, like didn't immediately step into the club, took some years to develop and then stepped in and was a fantastic centerman. Like maybe the Wings have one of those over in Sweden. Now, I'm not comparing them to Jonathan Drouin because Jonathan Drouin is awesome, but maybe they have a potential player like that, a guy who you don't have him right now. When you look at him all these players right now, you don't have them, but in a couple of years could be that player.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Still assets, yes.
But no, just that's something really good to see that the Wings have prospect depth around other hockey hockey countries besides just North America. And again, they're under 21 playing with like fully grown men, which that's important for prospect development.
I mean, yeah.
You learn to play against fully grown adults. I honestly think that it's better to just be okay against fully grown adults than to basically smack, your peers around. I think that's a lot better.
I mean, I know we're going to talk about it in a bit, but I think that's an issue with like Dach, which is not uncharacteristic. You get a guy that's just strong and big and like hard to knock off the puck, and you just bully your way through kids in the, in the CHL, and then you get to the show and all of a sudden it's like, ooh, Alex Lafreniere is experiencing the same issue in New York. It's like, wait, I can't just like bully my way through. I've got to get creative. I've got to adapt my game. Like if you never have to think about it, whereas these guys like a Seider or anyone who's playing against men, like you can't, so you've got to get creative. I think that's a huge step in development.
I mean, you don't grow unless you struggle. That's the thing.
That's why I don't mind guys being in the AHL for a bit, frankly.
Let them grow.
We can move on to the Blackhawks side of the podcast if you guys are all right with it.
Not much. It'll be a fun little jaunt.
Sure, why not?
I mean, we were kind of just talking about him, but Kirby Dach, drafted 3rd overall by the Hawks, had like a pretty solid, I thought, rookie year with the club.
Yeah.
Has an injury, misses basically an entire year's worth of playing, comes back this season, struggles a little bit, starting to hit his stride again, though. Like
it's been a great couple of weeks for Dach, honestly. I feel so bad because, again, he was drafted 3rd overall, and I still stand by this. He was the most NHL ready in my mind out of the people in that draft. And we grabbed him for that purpose. We rushed him in because he was in a weird position between he wasn't going to benefit anymore from going back to the WHL. He couldn't go to the minors. He had to be in the NHL. But then, he loses that whole, realistically, the majority of that last season. And then this year we threw him in as like our first line center. That's buck wild. Like, I think he took a hit to his confidence. He's not a good face-off guy yet. That's something that develops over time. But the last couple of weeks, and Nick, I know we're going to talk about this. I'm excited to get into it. But like, I feel like we've been seeing the Dach that we got excited about. We're seeing him start to shine again.
Yeah, no, I know I've kind of been I was dogging on him for a little bit. Not only on the show in the group chat, but yeah, Derek King said himself, he was kind of like hard on himself. Kirby Dach was his own worst critic. Yeah. And now we're kind of seeing him turn in, like that confidence is starting to build ever since like the pressure, like we've seen him struggle with the dot and they're slowly transitioning him to the wing to let him still play that two-way style, but also use that offensive creativity and not being like pressured to, hey, you got to go win this draw. Like it's a D-zone draw. You got to win this. So yeah, I think Dach is, he's finally starting to grow in his own. I like we said, talking about the with development of playing against men and whatnot. I personally think that Dach would have benefited from another year in juniors. Yes, he was like the most NHL ready, but he's a guy. He seems like a kid that he plays off confidence. With the more confidence,
definitely,
the better he's going to play, and you're starting to see that confidence grow a little bit using like his hands that he's well known for, and we're actually starting to see him shoot the puck a little more than he usually does. So, yeah, I think, it's still, he's still 21. He's 20 or 2021.
I mean, that's my thing too. I mean, he a couple weeks ago, he deleted all of his social media, got rid of the noise, able to focus a little bit more. He's also been playing more of like a third line center role. And he even said like, hey, right now, you know what I'm doing really well? Shutting down, hard checking, like forecheck, like, you know what? If that's what I am right now, that's what I am right now. And I'm going to keep trying to do the right things. Like he knows where he's at. I think he's going to benefit from being more realistically in a third line role right now. Like if I was 20, 21 years old, I didn't want to go up against Sidney Crosby and, McDavid and stuff like that in a face-off. That's ridiculous. But we are starting to see him loosen up a little bit. That's exciting to me. We're seeing him because he is offensively creative. Like that's what's right. He's not just again, I keep going back to Marian Hossa. Marian Hossa was one of the greatest two-way hard checking, like forecheck, shutdown, but he was also a phenomenally offensive, like creative playmaking. Like he did it all. There is no reason that Dach can't develop into that. And I know we've talked a little bit about, there's been talk of shifting him to wing once Taze comes back. I don't think that's a demotion. I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. If his strengths, I read a lot of comparisons in his draft year to Getzlaf, which like, hell yeah. If we had a Getzlaf on our team, love it. Love Getzlaf's style of play. But if you shift him to a wing, that starts to become certainly a Brandon Saad style, but like, and what was he but a mini Hossa? That's a Hossa style of play. Man, that is an invaluable piece of your top six.
Yeah, no, it's important to have. I mean, it's not hit. Like he doesn't need to be a number one center for him to be successful.
No,
like, yeah, we wanted him to be the Taze, the next one to inherit Taze's role, but he might be a winger and a really good one.
But he also might grow into that. It's such a weird thing. Because again, Strome is killing it at faceoffs this year, but he has been not good. Like he's been pretty bad at faceoffs his entire career. That's been one of our like the big knocks on him is like, can't win a faceoff. All of a sudden this year it clicked. He did a lot of work on whatever it was. I don't know. Maybe it just takes time. Like not everybody is, for every Taze, for every Kane, for every these guys that can jump into the league. And Taze took a year. Taze was at college for a year and then joined the NHL. I don't know. I think Dach needs time. I think Dach needs development. And I don't know if he's gotten as much of that before this year. I don't know. For all the things that Colleton was praised about, developing young kids, I don't know if Dach realistically got a lot of that.
Yeah. I mean, if you need to shift him to the wing for the rest of the year, and then during the offseason, you can work on faceoffs or work on getting stronger to get better at the dot, that's fine.
Like, I love it. I'm all about it.
Let him develop in certain areas. Like if he's going to go play wing and become that offensive playmaker he could be, I want any sign of development, and we're starting to see it a little more the past couple of weeks.
Nick, was it you before the show that brought up Teuvo Teravainen?
Yeah,
and how he joined the league as a center, and he's a phenomenal, like one of the top wingers now.
Yeah, I mean, it like just because they dominated that position like most of their life because of their size, and they come to the NHL and it's not for them, they can still be very productive anywhere else. Like Teuvo Teravainen, elite. He's an elite winger. I mean, Frolik, he was even a center coming to the league. I know Teuvo and Frolik are two different types of players,
but to feed your point, then we get Pius Suter, who we picked up as a wing.
Yeah.
And so now, you listen to, he's a more natural center. That's wild.
Some things just click for others and it doesn't.
Reichel was drafted as a left wing. Now he's a center first and foremost, and he might go back to wing. I don't know.
No, yeah. I mean, I'm not. So I know I know I was kind of like closing the window on Dach a couple of weeks ago. Now it's like.
Well, you were also, and
I was just
when you watch Trevor Zegras,
yeah,
I get it. But like David, you made a phenomenal point. Zegras is doing the right things and he's playing a good game. Not to take that away at all. But every 3-4 games, he has a highlight reel thing. Yeah, and you go, just always, oh my God, look at him. And then you like, he's good and he has the highlight reel plays, but like, that doesn't mean other guys that aren't flashy aren't going to be just as good, if not potentially better. Who knows?
Yeah. Exactly.
At this age, it's a free for all.
So right now I'm going to go back to defending Dach because I think we'll see it. Yeah. And if anything, this might be playing better in the Blackhawks' hands. Like his contract's coming up soon.
He can't demand the sum that Trevor Zegras is going to demand.
That we thought he was going to get too. It's like, oh, maybe 3 years at a really decent price for Dach is going to be
sign him to a bridge deal. And
so could be playing the Blackhawks hand right now too.
I kind of want your guys' opinion on something. Now, obviously, Kirby Dach hasn't been panning out at the center position like you guys have wanted him to. And he kind of got like the Svechnikov effect, as I'm going to call it, right? Like he looked okay, his rookie season. His second season, he gets a terrible injury that basically sets him back a full year. That's basically what happened to Evgeny Svechnikov. I know you guys want him to be like a true, like a true top number 1 and 2 centerman if it can pan out. But do you think realistically they should just put him on the third line and say, look, we're obviously not making playoffs right now. This team's not expected to go anywhere, probably for the next, couple of years, if we're being honest. So we want you to pan out as like a better player overall. Do you think the third line center position where he just takes defensive zone draws essentially is a good spot for him?
I don't know about the defensive zone draw area just because of the faceoff deficiencies. That said, I think that the third line makes a lot of sense. Not even if I still believe he can be a top 6 center. There's no reason not to put him at we get Tyler Johnson back. Even if Taves doesn't, whatever shakes out there, I see no reason why Dach being the third line center doesn't help develop him for a second or first line center position. Let him take the easier, again, going up against other third or fourth line centers. I push back a little bit on the Svechnikov thing. I totally understand the comparison. That said, I feel like Dach had a very good rookie season. We also saw him put himself in a lot of positions where he was making plays, playing strong on the forecheck, and he was like one of the top hit players in the league.
Yeah.
And he got a target on his back with the way he was playing. Guys that aren't a threat don't get a target on their back. Like, I don't know. There was a lot to be excited about at the end of Dach's rookie season. I still support the World Juniors move. I think, or whatever that was. Yeah, to send him to World Juniors. I think that was the right move. Weird fluky injury. That said, I think losing that year of his development, maybe the one fair comparison with Svechnikov, the issue that our roster is not as deep in the pool, that people aren't leapfrogging Kirby Dach yet.
Yeah.
He's got time to develop.
There's nobody like kind of jump. There's nobody that besides Reichel. It's
and cool. Let them compete. That's awesome.
We need 2 of those guys anyways. So
yeah, exactly. They're not competing for the same position realistically.
Well, all right. And I wasn't comparing him to Svechnikov's play, just like the situation of came out good his rookie year, then got hurt and basically missed a whole season.
Yeah. And I definitely, that's exactly where he's at. I think the externals are a little different, but yeah, the actual things of came out, had a great rookie season, or had a good rookie season, lost a year. Now the only difference is the Hawks sort of have to have patience because they don't have anyone knocking on the door. Whereas with the Wings, all of a sudden, and Evgeny kept getting re-injured, right?
Yeah, he got off the injury. He came back for a couple games, injured again.
That was just terrible luck. God, that poor guy.
He's doing okay in Winnipeg right now.
My kicker with Dach is I know that he had the concussion to start his rookie season. Now it's just keeping an eye, if there's a history of, injuries there that could lead to a more Svechnikov situation. But as of now, I think it's just important to remember he lost that year, like you said.
We're just talking about Lucas Reichel. I guess we can kind of transfer over to him. Yeah. He actually got recalled by the Blackhawks this week and got to play a couple games. Mm-hmm. I mean, what is your guys' sort of takeaway been?
I think he's been fine. He's obviously nothing jumping off the stat sheet or anything, but he's been a good player. And, you could see him. I don't think he's quite ready to make an impact on this roster, which is why I'm okay with him coming up for a stint, going back down and playing more. But yeah, no, I mean, every time he's up, it's like exciting. It's something to be excited about as a Hawks fan. It's like, hey, our big guy, our big prospect's up. Lucas Reichel's up. Turn on the T. It gives you a reason to actually turn on the Hawks. So like we've been saying, it's been hard to do so. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm just excited. He didn't get sent down yet again, right?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
No.
And I mean, the Hawks even said like, hey, Derek King, I think said himself, he's like, we don't care if we burn off a year of his contract. I don't think Reichel minds that obviously either. So yeah, I mean, the more we get to see of Lucas Reichel at the NHL level and playing with guys like Kane, playing with Dach, Strome, DeBrincat, like it's good to see where he could potentially fit, not just for this season, but also next season going forward.
He even said, like, you know what, the second call up, he's like, you sort of know what's expected of you. It's not the same as that first call up. Like, I know what I have to work on. Like, I know what I'm bringing, what I'm expected. Like, I don't think he's up to stay. I think that he'll be, I don't even think he'll get to his 9 game. I think that we'll put him back down after 2 or 3 games, and then bring him back up. I think he'll get 9 full games even if he doesn't cross his threshold, but I think it's going to be in pieces. Unless he does something to like force their hand, I think it's just a matter of like checking in, seeing where hey, we could use another center right now. Like someone that Kane likes playing. Like, I don't know. I'm excited. I love seeing him up here. I think it helps balance. It allows Strome to be in that second line where I think he's doing a really good job right now as the second line center, frankly. It'll be interesting to see where how the rest of this season goes, because I think development wise, having Reichel up for a few games, sending him back down, bringing that back to Rockford and honing it and then coming back up. I don't know. I really like that development strategy.
I mean, I think Tim, me and you actually talked about it at the time he got his first call up, but like a lot of these teams, it seems like they call the guy up for the 9 games, they get all 9 at once, and then they send him down. I actually like the 2 to 3 game call up better. Like I feel like when the guy's up for 2 or 3 games, you can tell him work on these things. Then he goes back to the AHL, works on those things. You call him back, and then you can actually evaluate how much you worked on them.
Yeah.
Give him new tasks, back down, works on those, comes back, evaluate the new tasks, back down. Then I think it's better to see how we can adjust to your guidance and direction better than just straight 9 games, see how he pans out.
Yeah, I think if you're going to do the 9 game thing, like in a bunch, like just in one sitting, essentially, like you do at the beginning of the year. Like it's like if you're doing the 9 game thing, like in a whole group, it's like this guy was close to making the roster out of camp. Let's give him the 9 games. Like Reichel, they knew he has some things to work on. So like you said, Jordan, like 2-3 games here, like send him down and tell him he needs to work on things, and then see what he's learned from that past call up. And yeah, I think it's a good approach too, because like you have obviously the film, you could see how he's developed as a player from the time he was called up to the team, sent back down, and then called back up again. So regardless, though, I mean, excited. It's another step in Lucas Reichel's development. And, hopefully we get to see at least one more game of him before he gets sent back down.
I think, just to wrap up my thoughts on the 9 game thing, I think the 9 game chunk makes the most sense when they're coming from the CHL. And once they go down, they're down. For the year. There's no calling them back up. Like if it's a guy that is going to play, okay, we're not going to keep him for the year, but we do want to get him a taste of the NHL. We want to see where he's at. You give him the 9 games at the start of the year and then send him back to the OHL or the WHL or the Q, like whatever. That's where that makes sense to me. Yeah. If they can go to Rockford, oh my God, utilize the back and forth.
Yeah.
We're just kind of talking about some development. Alex Regula made his first game of the season with the Hawks. What was it, last week?
Yeah.
Sunday, yesterday.
Yeah, I was gonna say, God, I mean, technically Sunday's the start of a week. Yeah. I know he's one of those guys he's an interesting one.
Yeah, he's an interesting piece. He's like, because the Blackhawks defensive prospects, it's like they're all after time, like they're all leapfrogging each other at one part. Like
Yeah.
Like, oh, this guy now has the upper hand. This guy has Ian Mitchell has the upper hand. Oh, now the guy
Mitchell's
from,
looked great in Rockford, by the way, the last couple of weeks.
yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the guy like Mitchell, Galvis, like he got
Bodan is
and
still around.
Wyatt Kaiser, Kaiser, Kellen.
They're high on Kaiser.
Yeah,
I like that.
Everybody's kind of just like leapfrogging each other. So, but to see these guys like Regula get called up to the NHL, like kind of like Lucas Carlson last year.
Isaac Phillips is one that I don't know. I like to keep remembering because like he's only 20 years old, I think 20 or 21, and like he's still got a ton of potential. But yeah, Regula's the most recent one to be up.
Yeah, I mean it's nice to see like where these prospects are at, because eventually the Hawks are gonna have to start offloading some of these defensive prospects to build up their forward.
Exactly.
So it's nice to see. Like, I mean, Regula's I think he's gonna be a fine player. I still like that trade from Detroit. I think that's one Steve Eiser might have lost. So yeah, I mean, interesting piece. Glad to see him get a game time. He looked pretty good too.
Regula to me brings a different, like, he's still like an offensive defenseman, much like Bodan. Even like, I know Mitchell sort of flits back and forth between two-way defenseman and offensive defenseman, but he's that undersized, like, he's got to be faster, got to be on the poke check more. Regula's a big body for a more offensive defense, like this newer offensive defenseman. He's a bigger body. He's got a booming shot. He kind of reminded me of a Seabrook structure of a defenseman. I don't have a ton to like. He wasn't one of our like top 3 prospects that I was paying attention to. He's there. I put him in the same pocket as like Isaac Phillips. I had him in the same pot as like Jacob Galvis, who has now leapfrogged. But I like his potential. I think that he pans out as a bottom 4 guy, might slot into the middle with the right person, but could be a third pairing guy that has offensive potential. I don't know. I like his size and I like the unique skill set blend that he brings to the table.
Also glad that they're not really giving up on him, because he was Boquist's D partner in London.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see that they're still like giving him a chance. He wasn't just tied to Adam Boquist. So So nice, interesting piece for a young D man in the Blackhawks organization.
He's a right-handed defenseman, which is always nice to have.
Yeah.
I mean, like that's the thing. Like he was like basically like a kind of like a flyer pickup for you guys. Like the wings.
We needed to get rid of Perlini.
Yeah, like you guys needed to get rid of Perlini. Eiserman was willing to take a chance on this guy. Alec Regula, I don't think David Meyer, you really had him, panned out for a long-term role with the club, at least not with the development pipeline that we have. So it was just one of those things like, okay, we've got an extra piece, trade it. And it didn't work out for us. I'm happy it's going to maybe work out for you guys.
I think it was a good trade for both teams. And I've said that before and I'll say it again. You get a guy who's a streaky scorer like Perlini, man, if he could find it with Detroit and Eiserman, that would have been a nice complementary depth scorer for you, which we've been talking about. And looking at your defensive core now, I don't see where Regula would be fitting in.
I think that he would have cracked this year's team probably. I mean, I don't know. I think he cracks the Hawks if there's not so much money tied up in that defense. Like when Murphy, DeHaan, McCabe, Caleb Jones, Seth Jones, obviously. Like there's a lot of money tied up into that defense.
I just don't know if Regula is realistically above Galvis or Kalanick or Stillman.
Yeah, that's
on top of like Caleb Jones, who would be the only other person you'd really leapfrog.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true too.
That's again, Gustafson, fire him. We're saying it again. We've said it before. It's a poor guy. I like Gustafson. I don't take up I get why we signed him. We had like 10 injuries and we needed somebody who knew how to play defense and they weren't available. So we got Gustafson. But yeah, I don't think Regula is there yet where he could leapfrog the numerous people, but we want to see where he's at in comparison to NHL talent. And that's what the rest of this year should be, frankly.
I mean, yeah, that's the thing. Like the Hawks aren't in the playoff race and they're not really close. This is what you should be doing in a the Hawks didn't make rebuild moves this offseason, but in a real rebuilding year, this is what you should be doing. You should be cycling your prospects to see what you have.
Yeah.
We didn't make rebuild moves because we had a GM fighting for his job. That said, love Seth Jones. Big fan of Seth Jones. Wish we didn't give up what we gave up, but that does not take away from Seth Jones being our number one defenseman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good for Regula.
The last piece of Hawks news that I have on the schedule, and this is, I mean, I kind of talked about it earlier with like, you know, the whole town hall they had a couple of weeks ago and them like talking about changing the culture of the franchise. Bobby Hull has been officially let go from the ambassador role with the Chicago Blackhawks.
Yep.
People can call it, you know, cancel culture or whatever they want, but I'm sorry, as somebody who hates cancel culture, you got to be fair. This is not cancel culture. This guy has put out some pretty awful takes.
Good riddance. I mean, I don't think he should have been an ambassador to begin with, but he's a Hawks icon. Great player for the Blackhawks. Great player. With that being said, terrible morals, shitty human being, and like it's starting to see that transition and rebrand that the Danny Wirtz wants. Though it's like we're getting rid of guys like, yeah, the Hawks have had a terrible past now that what we found out this summer and like the past year.
Yep.
And you know, obviously Bobby Hull has had his remarks about Nazi beliefs and
a lot of just really rough
domestic abuse situations. So yeah, good riddance. We don't want a brand ambassador.
It can't be it.
Bobby Hull, especially in the trying times that we have. I think it's important to know Chris Chelios and Stan Mikita are remaining as ambassadors, so this is just like a one
Savard, right?
Oh yeah,
I mean Mikita will always be an ambassador.
Yeah, I meant Dennis Savard.
Giving up to our guy,
but
so
Savard and Chelios are remaining on board. So I mean now we have a couple spots to fill in, but yeah, good riddance to Bobby Hull. He's a scumbag of a human being, and
yeah, I get it. Like I want to start off with like, especially knowing McDonough now, I get it. I get why Bobby. I mean, the Golden Jet, a legend and an icon of the only other real golden era of Chicago Blackhawks history. Something that like an entire generation grew up with Mikita and Hull, and like it was a time where you really didn't know too much about a player's personal life, and like it shouldn't be like winning and ability sort of swept everything else under the rug.
Yeah.
Which is the culture that we're now moving away from, that winning at all costs is not actually worth it. I get why McDonough was in charge of marketing a dying franchise, and he took the faces that could help.
Yeah.
That said, this has been a long time coming, and man, no matter how good you are at your sport, if you're that bad of a human being, you can't be the face.
Yeah.
He'll always be in the Hall of Fame. He'll have his name on the Stanley Cup, but you can't be the face of a franchise that especially can't afford any bad PR at this point. It's a long time coming. Many will argue that should have happened much earlier because none of this was a secret. Again, domestic abuser, really pretty awful racist takes, not a great person. It's time. Luckily, I'm not seeing, usually Twitter is a cesspool, and like I can usually count on a pretty divided comment section. I'm not seeing.
No, yeah.
It's pretty much unanimous. Like,
yeah.
I
mean, that being said, hold on. Before I even get to that thought, like, yeah, you don't want to parade this guy around like
you can't keep rolling him out.
Yeah,
now.
like the golden child. But I know the timing is convenient. Obviously, like if this case never happened this offseason, Bobby Hull probably is.
I'm sure he is.
They probably just let him die as
right into the sunset.
But
and
now
we never talk about it.
But now the spotlight's on the Hawks, but it shows they're doing the right thing. Like they're not ignoring themselves and what they're goals are set out to accomplish. So yeah, this might be like, oh yeah, convenient timing. Of course, you're under the spotlight. Like, but yeah, you're still reacting and responding in the right ways.
There are so many times, not just with the Hawks, but in general, where the spotlight's on you and you still don't do the obvious right things. I will take it. If the Hawks were continuing to make all these solid moves that they're doing with like mental wellness, changing the culture, yada, 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 but then they still roll out Bobby Hull for like brand event, like ambassador events and stuff like that. That's the tone deaf issue that like we would be saying, oh, cool, you're making lessons for, but like, I don't know, you're still parading Bobby Hull around as a garbage human being. You need to do this to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. Like the thing with Bobby Hull, like it's not like he made like some joke that like somebody took offense to or whatever. Like
no, he's made some really bad takes.
Like it's not like it's not like Dave Chappelle where like he's made jokes that some people take really poorly. Like it's legit bad takes. Like
and also like severe domestic abuse and like to the point where you can, if you're listening, you can Google a lot and I encourage it. Like if you're, you should know the information.
Yeah, educate yourself a little bit. Yeah.
That's like between the domestic abuse, a series of alcoholism like that didn't ever have to be addressed because of the enabling of the culture. Like, and that alcoholism fed into a lot of the domestic abuse. There's a lot that therapy would do a really good job for 30 years, previously for the guy to address a lot of the bad takes and a lot of like the other stuff. There's a lot to be said that the culture at that time just not only discouraged a lot of the things that could have maybe helped this person at a time where they could have still been helped, but certainly fed and enabled the person to continue to be who they were. I don't know. That's the good, like, listen, thanks for the memories. Can't keep being a face. Have a good one. Right into the sunset.
Yeah. We do have one more piece of news, Blackhawks news, right? I forgot. Patrick Kane is now second all time in assists for Chicago Blackhawks history. He is at 720 now. I want to say.
Yeah, that from the game yesterday, right?
Passing Dennis Savard. So a little bit of history. It was cool to see Savard's little congratulatory post to Kaner. But the main reason I wanted to bring this up, obviously an amazing accomplishment for Patrick Kane. I know last week I was kind of talking about, if a guy like Kane is requesting a trade, and if it were come to that case, but we were talking about like Taves' contract, Kane's contract. What's it looking like next? I don't think a guy like Kane is really gonna Kane has his cups. Like he's not gonna be a guy that's chasing a champion. He's a legacy guy now. I think he wants to be the best Blackhawk in history.
He does. Yeah.
Like he's a legacy guy. He wants to be the best Blackhawk of all time. He wants to have all the accolades. He's got his Stanley Cups. He's already going to be a Hall of Famer. He's going to be in the rafters, but he wants to be the best of all time. I think that's the biggest thing. So I know we're getting worried about when it comes to his next contract, like what's it going to look? I think he's going to take a discount. Like he's a guy that wants to win, but he doesn't want to win anywhere else. He wants to win with the Blackhawks and still just pile onto his legacy as the greatest Blackhawk of all time.
And he's the guy that got paid. Like he got paid to do it. This isn't a guy that was always on team friendly deals that took that cut, whatever it was. And now he's still trying to get that money. He got paid accordingly for his work. I think that the $10.5 million 8-year contract was incredibly deserved. I think he's earned every cent of it. And that's not something that can be said for a lot of contracts. I'm with you, Nick. I think at this point, I don't see him as, I think if the organization went to him and was like, we want to tear down at the studs. Look, we would like to anything you can do. He would go to a contender because he wouldn't want to play boring hockey, frankly. But I don't see him ever, and everything he's saying, like in the GM search where he's like, I just hope that the next GM takes veteran players' voices into account. And like, we can have a voice. I think that we can provide a unique perspective. Like everything that he says. And again, what are you going to say? But he doesn't have to say all of what he's saying. He sounds like he wants to be here.
Yeah.
For the long haul.
I mean, like,
problem with what you're saying is I don't see you guys tearing it down, studs and rebuilding. You had your chance to do that, and they then traded away first round picks to bring in Seth Jones and other things. I don't think he'll leave. I don't think you guys have the capital to rebuild now. I think you're in that point where you're going to struggle for a bit and maybe get some pieces and bring them in, but you're not going to be able to do what we did, which is the whole tear it down.
Yeah.
Everything's awful for a few years. This year, I think, is going to be, like we've seen, a rough year for you, but I think you do have pieces there to kind of stabilize and push forward next season, especially if you can bring in a smart GM and a smart coach to kind of bring them all together. Colleton was not the guy to really push you guys forward, unfortunately. They brought all those pieces in, and we were all like, oh man, you guys are just really going for it this year. And we were kind of excited for you guys beginning of the season.
Oh, for sure.
And Colleton wasn't that guy. And I think if you do bring in the right coach with the people you have on that roster, I think it'll be fine. But I don't see Kane leaving. I think he's a Blackhawk for life.
Now, one thing I do want to ask, like, could you guys see him signing, just like 2 or 3 year deals until he's done?
I think he's going to sign long term again and kind of just, let that be that. Like, I don't think he wants to have the worry about, are they going to bring me back, or am I going to, because I mean, obviously it's going to be new management too. I think he just kind of wants to lock it up and maybe like a 4-year deal. And then at the end, like he'll weigh his options there, but I don't see him like signing like the 1 or 2 year deals and like playing it by ear. I think he just kind of wants to.
I'm thinking a 3-year. I honestly, 3-year deal is what sounds right in my head, just from like that should give him, from his perspective, not only job security, but also if there is a tail end of his career where he can still, like, if this is just not, and he wants to, he can go somewhere else. I think 3 or 4 years makes the most sense.
Yeah. I think it's all about stability at this point. I mean, like he's a family man now too, which is a big deal.
He's got so many roots and shit. Yeah, exactly.
Like it's all about his legacy and kind of finishing what he started in this town. I think, but yeah, 2 year maybe, but 3. I think 3 or 4 is like what his next contract is gonna look like.
Okay.
No news on the GM update. Since we're recording tonight on a Monday, it'll probably be announced tomorrow. So.
Right, exactly.
We'll be
That's our luck.
We'll be able to talk about that in the next show. But yeah, I mean, they interviewed like the vice president or someone with another outside the box interview with the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah.
So but I had no real knowledge, or I didn't do anything, but it's nice to, again, fresh, a new route. So it's nice to get the input.
I got no beef with they said they were going to think outside the box. And as long as they surround that person with, give them the tools to succeed. Cool.
Yep. So yeah, probably announcement tomorrow, but yeah.
With our luck.
We can talk about the rest of the league really quick. Just league-wide news. We mentioned it earlier. Jack Eichel is officially playing with the Vegas Golden Knights again, scores his first goal with them. It's almost like they should have let him got the surgery, right? It's almost like the doctors knew what they were talking about.
Yeah, you think? Holy shit, Buffalo. Way to fuck this one up. We
could have had the surgery, been back on the ice.
We had to throw a dig at you in this episode at some point. Here it is, because Jesus, he didn't really show, like, everybody was like, he's gonna have a little bit of rust. He's a point a game already. Like, he's back in. He's 3 points in 3 games. He's got his first goal already under his belt. I mean, Vegas is a wagon. Not to mention, I know we kind of had a little chat about it. They did their own little version of a Kucherov, but it's great to see Jack Eichel in a place where he's going to be able to succeed.
Yes, they did their own version of Kucherov, but at least Mark Stone actually, played and contributed.
That's my argument. That is 100% my argument. Like, I get it. I know that when they traded for Eichel, they knew they were going to have to do something. All this stuff, like Stone is their captain. Stone played,
a decent chunk of the season.
Yeah, a decent chunk of the season. Like, and there is a back, like, they can't just long-term, like, they can't LTIR a guy for nothing. Like, they get checked out by, third-party doctors and stuff like that to make sure nobody's fooling.
Got a paper cut.
Yeah, exactly. And that said, all this does is kick the can down the road a little bit more, where it's like, now they've got Stone and Eichel signed to long-term deals. They're still going to have to come up with something in the off season.
You can't. Is Vegas going to crash here soon? Like,
I don't think they'll crash.
They're not in a Los Angeles Rams win now situation, but they need to win soon.
They still have those like elite pieces is the thing. Like, they have the Pietrangelo on the back end, the Shea Theodores, Pacioretty, Mark Stone, Jack Eichel. I mean, you're gonna see them lose their depth pieces.
William
Karlsson, but he might be the guy on the chopping block next season.
It'll be interesting, yeah.
A guy like Riley Smith will probably be gone. Jonathan Marchessault, but like they're still gonna have their core four essentially with Eichel, Stone, Theodore, and Pietrangelo.
Yeah.
Pacioretty might be another
Lehner.
odd man. Yeah, and Leonard as well. Yeah, and Pacioretty might eventually be the odd man out there, but I mean, regardless, Vegas is going to be a force to be reckoned with once the playoffs start. And holy shit,
it's gonna be exciting to watch.
You flip Patches to a playoff team that needs that proven goal scorer. He can help bump up a team and win. You flip Riley Smith. I still think Wild Bill is your second line center now with Eichel as your first. I think they're not in a Tampa situation where it is borderline. You needed $9 million. You needed pretty much Kucherov's entire salary gone to have your entire third line. Like, there's such a buck wild thing with the Kucherov thing. I agree with. I agreed in the chat that the league's got to start to look at this whole LTIR, no cap in the play. Like, you've got to come up with something, but this is less offensive to me than the Kucherov thing.
Oh, yeah.
My big push with him was, I need you to play at least one game in the regular season to be playoff eligible.
Yeah, if it's some kind of that kind of rule, or make it just you have to be salary cap at the salary cap even throughout the playoffs.
Yeah,
like something. But I mean, convenient timing, of course. But you know what? It's as much as we like to bitch about super teams, they are fun to see.
Oh my god, it's exciting.
Yeah, it's good for the league.
The Rams were a perfect example of that for football. Like, I don't care that they're realistically going to have to blow it all up in like a year and they don't have picks or anything like that. They were an incredible team and they just won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, super teams can be fun.
Look at their playoff run. Fourth quarter comebacks every game. Like, it was exciting to watch.
It's good for the league, especially with Vegas, they've been established, but like, it's still a newer team. It's a newer market in the NHL, and it's Vegas. Like, you want the spotlight on them. So if the Hawks were good, maybe I'd be more upset about it, but like, I'm just going to enjoy it. Like, when it comes to it, I'm going to be enjoying betting on Vegas any chance I could get, unless they play Colorado.
I don't know.
But I mean, they're going to be one hell of a team, and if everybody comes back healthy, like Leonard and Stone, and they all are clicking on one cylinder, watch out.
It's super cool. Love it. And again, they could still get knocked out because playoffs. How does Columbus sweep Tampa 2 years ago or 3 years ago now? Jesus.
Oof. Weird stuff happens.
That's playoffs.
So obviously Jack Eichel's a star coming back with Vegas. Let's talk about a star who probably should be having a break here from his club for a while. Nathan MacKinnon slashes a referee.
This is so bad.
Like, I tried watching that video multiple times, and people were like, he was trying to get Nosek. He was still trying to slash somebody.
Absolute donkey of a move.
Yeah.
Donkey of a
he
move.
knows so much better. Like, he does not get the excuse.
And like, so according to the rule book, this is supposed to be a 20-game suspension.
By the letter, I've watched the play, I've watched the clip. By the letter of the book, this is 20 games. I agree with you 100%.
And like the league can't not uphold this, because if they don't do this, whenever another player gets mad at a ref and slashes a ref, they could just point at Nathan MacKinnon and say, he only got 5 games. Why don't I get 5 games?
Nathan MacKinnon's best hope is that he gets the Vermette treatment, and however they analyzed Vermette's one, whatever it was, he got 10 games. His best bet is 10 games. And even then, I mean, great. Nazem Kadri is having a hell of a year with Colorado. Colorado's in a bad position right now, competing for playoffs, to lose MacKinnon for 10 games, and God forbid for them 20. There's no way.
MacKinnon's not doing so hot right now. What was it? A couple games ago, he headshotted.
Really bad headshot to Nolan Patrick.
Like, he needs to be punished now.
Yeah.
First it was a player, and now it's an official. Like, if he gets away with this, where's the line? Like, the Stars can get away with things, but then, other players get suspended for other things. Like, yes, Brad Marchand deserves to be suspended for what he did.
Yeah, because it was a rookie Bush League move.
But if you're going to make a Brad Marchand get suspended, a Tom Wilson get suspended, or all these other players get suspended, Nathan MacKinnon needs to be suspended. And if Dylan Larkin did anything like this, I'd be calling for him to be suspended. I don't care that he's the star of our team, the captain of our team. I don't give a crap. If anyone does anything, including attacking an official,
that's such a
out, done.
I guess
games.
Even especially as the captain, you're setting the tone for that's a Bush League move. Like, there's no justification for that. The only thing working in MacKinnon's favor is his history, whereas Marchand, Wilson have histories and prior yada yada yada. MacKinnon doesn't, but like, I'm with you. We talked about this before the show. In the span of a month, that was a bad headshot on Nolan Patrick, who has a history of concussions and head injuries. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it is, but like, I don't remember MacKinnon being this much of a loose cannon hothead. He's got to get smacked down real quick.
I get what you're saying too, especially like the history thing. But if he doesn't get punished for this, he's going to be.
And then there still won't be a history. Like,
he's going to add to his history of things he can get away with. You need to punish him now, set the tone, say, okay, we know you don't have a history, but this is something you can't be doing. 20 games will knock it into his head saying, oh crap, I have been screwing up. I need to get my crap together.
And what's frustrating is, if he even had a 1-game suspension after the headshot on Nolan Patrick, I would assume he doesn't do this, frankly, and it establishes that prior history. When you get away with stuff, then they don't have the record. That's the thing to me. You need to get this, because then there is a history the next time he does something, and he's on notice now. I don't know. It's a really bad look for, one of the exciting young superstars of our league. Again, this isn't unique. I mean, Crosby almost slashed off
dude's finger from Philadelphia.
Yeah, exactly. Mark Mathot's finger. I don't know. I don't like it though. The way the league is moving, MacKinnon can't do this.
Especially the way, from the team standpoint too, especially the way the Avs are rolling. I think they started the year 4-5-1. And ever since then, they went on a 32-5 run since their
MacKinnon was out for a bit with an injury.
Yeah. I mean, but still, that's ridiculous. Like 32. Oh, they're
absolutely, but it's
2
beautiful.
Weeks. Are you like, they didn't lose at all in January? like the team's unreal. And if MacKinnon's gone for 20 games, that's scary because
I don't think, I don't think they survive if he's gone for 20 games.
Yeah, I mean,
Which-
they'll squeak into the playoffs,
that's
but they're
the-
not going to be that one seed that they.
That's the cost of being an idiot.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
rightfully so. Like I'm not defending them
It's
all.
that split second where all of our brains have that moment of like, if I do this, what is the repercussion? And like, he
And
just
that-
did it.
And
It's
I've
just-
been watching the clip. I just watched the clip again while we were talking about it. and, like,
Cool.
people have put the clip like zoomed in on it, and there's a moment where he's paused there before he even does anything,
Man.
and he does it.
He
That
let-
right there is it. Like if
Is
it
it?
was like trying to reach and hit the guy that's in front of him, yes, the guy was already gone, and he hits the ref and skate.
Yeah,
I'm like,
it was out of frustration getting your ass kicked by the Bruins today, and it's just a
We've
poor-
all been, yeah.
that little hesitation though is gonna be like, well, that was enough time to like make a decision.
You
right
made a
there.
conscious decision.
Yeah,
And the thing is, like I said, they have to come down hard on him because if they
Oh,
don't,
God,
then
yeah.
everybody else who does this in the future can point to this incident and say, he only got 5 games. Why don't I get 5 games?
Oh.
And that's a fair bit. Like that's a fair bitch.
and
oh,
if I'm an official too, like, do you not care about my safety?
Oh,
I'm not
the
gonna-
the,
I'm
the
not gonna
officials
ref it.
union would lose their minds. What was it? Weidman a couple years ago that hit an official, and like the league tried to, drop the charge or something like that lower, and like the officials union was like, absolutely not. I'm trying to remember which. I think it was Weidman.
can you imagine if MacKinnon doesn't get touched after this, or talked to, or suspended? Can you imagine the fit Marchand's gonna throw? Holy cow! That
And realistic, like I get it. Marchand plays the heel, but like when it's wrong, it's wrong. I know McKinnon's a squeaky clean, that's the air that he plays, but
Fair is fair.
yeah,
Yeah.
fair is fair. You do the crime, you do the time. I don't know. People have to have responsibility.
I think
It's unfortunate the Stars aren't being held more accountable, like Draisaitl, spearing players left and right. Nothing. It's getting ridiculous.
I think-
But then again, we had the same critique of Crosby for years that he was a semi-dirty player.
Oh yeah, he was always towing the line. But that's what makes these good players great, though, is their ability to
I mean,
Like,
PK Subban was a known
Yeah,
slew footer.
yeah, but-
Like
I think these star players need to, like, as much as it sucks, they need to have a little bit of dirtiness in them.
I'm all for that. I'm all for towing the line. I'm all for pushing the
Oh
envelope.
yeah,
but
when you
there's
step over the line, yeah,
and
it's-
that's you
yeah.
play your game on an edge.
yeah,
You've
and
got to
sometimes-
have absolute control.
Yeah, and sometimes the wires just cross. It sucks. Like Marchand, for example, that's why he's so good. Is he has the ability to get under your skin.
For sure.
But I mean, now he's the most. I think he's the most fined player in NHL
Yeah.
history with $1.4 million in suspensions.
Jesus. And like, but yeah, I don't know. You make a move like that, that's not playing with an edge.
How about that fucking save?
Yeah, exactly. That's it. That's what punches a guy. That's you're a child.
Oh, while we're on the Bruins, I guess, Jordan, what's the other piece of news that happened over there?
Yeah, Tuukka Rask announces retirement from the Bruins, the long-term goaltender for them for years on end. It's kind of that changing of the guard, and the Bruins have been doing this for the past couple of years. Like they're slowly watching these guys leave their organization. I gotta ask, like, how much do you guys think the Bruins have left in the tank before they kind of have to look at it and say, hey, maybe we're hitting the rebuild button here soon?
I don't know, because they've done a really good job of staying competitive while changing out pieces. Obviously they don't have the cups to show, like they have the 11 cup, but that's it. But they've been consistently competitive every year, even though they've lost, Krejci, they've lost Chara, they've lost Krug. That said, I think that realistically, when Bergeron retires, that's going to be the game changer for them. Because like they've got Ullmark and Swayman that can step in. I'm a huge Tuukka Rask fan. So like, I think that he was a phenomenal goalie that they're not really going to replace. That said, I like Swayman's game a lot, but he's not where Tuukka was yet. They don't have a number one center. they don't have a number 2 center realistically, but they've got Patrice Bergeron. And he's the Selke nominee for like a decade plus. That's going to be a blow to them because Marchand has a couple more years. I think he's still going to be good even on his next contract. Bergeron's like 36 or 37. Like, end of his contract, I don't know how much he has left in the tank.
And
yeah.
And that's the thing, like, who's the next centerman to take Bergeron's place? Like, I can't think of anybody off the top of my head who, like, when I look at the Bruins and I look at the team and say, yeah, that guy is for sure taking over Bergeron's mantle. I don't see that.
But I think
unless
Boston,
they bring someone in.
Yeah, I think Boston's one of those organizations that everybody kind of wants to go to just because of history there. But yeah, I mean, you're right. They don't have like it's kind of just like kick. Like I know we used the phrase a couple of times, like kicking the can down the road. Like we'll deal with this problem later. Like we're just gonna go try to build the best competitive team we have now. I think they have a good young goalie, which is good, and Jeremy Swayman.
Yeah,
he's really good. They have actually, I think Linus Ullmark's a pretty good backup there too as well. I mean, it all goes back to that 2015 draft. Though. I'm looking at it now, where they had picks number 13, 14, and 15. They went with Jacob Zaboral, Jake DeBrusk, and Zachary Senchinin.
Oh God!
3 picks after that, or a pick after their first 3. Matthew Barzal. Ever heard of him?
Mm-hmm.
Next guy after Barzal, Kyle Connor. Ever heard of him? Next guy after Kyle Connor, Thomas Shabbat. Ever heard of him? So like 3
how do you get so unlucky with? Now that said, Zebril is fine. DeBrusk, I think, still has top 9 in him. But my God, if you had Barzal,
Shabbat, and Kyle Connor, that's 3 franchise
like
players.
The Lions taking Eric Ebron over Aaron Donald or Odell Beckham Jr.
Again, that's why the whole draft is a crapshoot. Frankly, people put too much stock in where you pick at. But yeah, I mean, but they've also been able to have Taylor Hall on a really affordable deal because he wants to stay in Boston. Charlie Coyle is their second line center right now, which is fine. I'd rather he's your third line center. Frankly, he's sort of a Fabry to me. I don't know. You've got Pasternak is absolutely phenomenal, but I don't know if they're running low. I mean, their defense is cool. Brandon Carlo, Charlie McAvoy, like Mike Riley's fine. Just fine.
Yeah. But it feels like Boston's one of those organizations that just never goes away. But I mean, with that being said, though, Tuukka Rask, I know a lot of Boston fans want to say Tim Thomas is the best spot. No, it's Tuukka Rask. Like,
Tuukka Rask is a better goalie than
Tim Thomas. He got way too much shit he should have had arguably 2 cups. Like they should have beat the Hawks that year. We
were such a good team.
Yeah, they had us on. Like if they would have won that game, who knows what happens in Game 7?
Yeah.
When Tuukka Rask was a start, like it was like, oh God, dude, are we gonna get one by him tonight? St. Louis game, another Game 7 situation, could have just one bad period costed him a Stanley Cup. So, but yeah, I mean, congrats to Tuukka Rask, hell of a career. It's sad to see that his attempt to return didn't really.
That was a bummer. We saw that twice now this year between Rask and Bishop.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So but great career. I mean, he's going to be a legend in Boston forever, and I think fans they're going to miss him for quite some time.
Oh yeah. I mean, some killer goalie masks.
Yeah, Tuukka Rask he will be loved in Boston forever.
Absolutely.
Weird end of an era. I'm just thinking about like Lundqvist is gone, Bishop's done, Tuukka Rask, Crawford, Luongo a couple years ago. Like, I don't know, that era of goalies that like we just always saw. Like, I know that Price is still rehabbing and coming back and getting back into things, but like, I don't know, there was Jonathan Quick is on the back end of it. Like he's still like being a decent goalie, but like we're running out of the old guard of like 2010 to 2020.
Yeah, the mid 2010s, like those were like the elite goalies of the time. And it's like,
Yeah.
where are they all going? We're getting old, boys.
Gone.
We're getting old.
God, yeah.
We're getting old, boys. That's what it is. That's what
That's
it's
it.
like David said at the start of the show. It's like how the Valentine's Day things. It's like, oh, like I'm the old married man. Jordan's the kind of new married man. Tim is gonna be the freshly married man.
gonna be.
And I'm in a brand new relationship. But yeah, it's like it shows like we're aging and it's scary.
Back in my day,
yeah,
we had our Dominic Hasiks and our Chris Osgoods back in my day.
You want to talk about a back and forth, let me show you about the Sedines.
We can move on to the flashback and the flash forward segment. The flashback segment, rather than talk about every game, because we had a 2-week hiatus for the show.
Yeah.
The Wings beat Philly twice, got smoked by the Minnesota Wild, as you would expect, because the Minnesota Wilds have been really good this season. And then tried to hand the New York Rangers a shootout win, but New York just refused to take it.
So frustrating. As a Rangers fan, that's so frustrating.
Yeah. This week, they're going to end up playing against the Colorado Avalanche and the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm predicting a really rough week. Maybe not Colorado, because MacKinnon should be suspended for the breath.
MacKinnon's suspended, there's a chance. So you're telling me
there's no chance. Get off the high horse.
All right, it may not be a bloodbath. It may just be like a really bad beating.
Yeah, it's
42
from like a 6-goal victory to like a 3-4.
I'll take it.
But the Leafs, that should be a massacre. Like, as much as I don't really like the way the Leafs are built so top heavy, they are stupid good at the forward position.
We've beaten the Leafs this season, haven't we?
I think once, but I mean, I'm still expecting the loss. If we're being honest here, I think the Wings are going to lose to the Leafs.
I'm going to have faith and say we take one of these 2 games. I don't know which one, but I'd say one of the 2.
As for the star of the week, though, I mean, I've got to give it up to Dylan Larkin. The guy had 3 goals these past 2 weeks. That's pretty good. And then he had the assists on, what was it, Raymond's goals?
Yeah. Larkin is also my star of the week.
I mean, I just don't know how you give it to anybody else. 3 goals and multiple assists. It's pretty good.
My captain.
The Blackhawks, I mean, you guys had an interesting couple past games this week.
Is that what you want to call it?
That's being very nice.
So what was it? You guys had the 4-1 win over Edmonton. St. Louis smoked you guys pretty good 5-1.
Smoke is
just
a nice
lose
one.
last night.
Yeah, but they lost. What was it? The shootout, right?
No, that was 2 nights ago.
Yeah, that was against the Stars. Yesterday,
no, the Panthers
we
was
5-2 against the Panthers. Yeah, I mean, we beat again in February, lost 5-0 to the Wild, beat the Oilers 4-1, lost to the Blues 5-1, beat the Jets 3-1, lost to the Blue Jackets 7-4, lost to the Stars 1-0 in the shootout. Both goalies were credited with a shutout, which is always fun. And then we lost 5-2 to the Panthers yesterday. I mean, that's where we're at, right? Like, when we win like 4-1, 3-1, awesome. But we're getting blown out 5-1, 5-0, 7-. Like, what are we, Nick? Like,
it's a roller coaster.
Yeah.
You guys are the Wings from last year. True playoff teams absolutely beat you guys to death. But anybody who's not a true playoff team, you have a chance against.
I mean, Columbus, we got smoked against.
Yeah.
Columbus is heating up. Patrick Laine is looking real good.
I mean, we're just a bad team. Like we've lost a lot of games. We're gonna lose a lot more, and it's gonna be miserable for the rest of the year. Until our bright spots are we're gonna have a new management soon.
Yeah,
we might be able to offload some pieces for the trade deadline, but regardless, it's been bad.
We've got
another way to put it.
We've got the New Jersey Devils on Friday, and on Sunday we're playing the Blues again. Are we? Yeah, we're doing predictions right now.
I'm gonna say win against the Devils, loss against the Blues.
You and me both.
Yeah.
I hate it. I
Who are your-
hate saying that I think we're gonna lose to the Blues, but
Who were your stars of the weeks?
I am going to go with Kirby Dach.
Yep.
I think he deserves it. He's been working really hard. Again, in a week where we're having to grasp at those little victories. I think that he's shown a lot of growth and like starting to heat up.
Just for the sake of not being unanimous, I'm gonna go with Alex DeBrincat. He's
Always a
kind
good
of
choice.
Yeah, he's kind of been one of the guys. He's been one of the very few bright spots in the Hawks year
The
round.
entire year.
I know 40 goal scoring was kind of the theme, and that's another guy who's on track for another 40 goal season. So yeah, Alex DeBrincat, he's finding the back of the net on a regular basis. So yeah, that's my start of the week.
Love it.
One more thing that I don't think we talked about, just really quickly, our former player, Valtteri Filppula.
Yes, he won with who was it? Finland, right?
Captains Finland to their very first Olympic gold medal.
Good for Finland.
I told you Canada wasn't going to win after Jeremy Colleton was named head coach.
No, congratulations to Finland
Yeah.
on winning the gold. Russia ended up losing in the finals against them. Well, technically, like, what is it? ROC, the
ROC.
Russia's Olympic Committee or whatever
Right,
it is.
exactly.
The white flag.
But yeah, awesome. Good job for Finland winning the gold. Unfortunately, it sucks we didn't get to see NHL players playing here this year. I want it next time, man. I want to see like the real stacked USA and Canada and Sweden and Russia teams.
It was cool. It was cool to see the kids though, like Drew Comesso getting a chance, and
was
he
huge.
posted a shutout, didn't he?
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So it was good to see like signs of his development because we don't get to watch much Boston.
I don't. Yeah,
as he beat-
I just don't have.
Yeah, so we don't get to watch like much of that. So it's good to see him on national spotlight and play pretty well. So, but yeah, it's nice to see change. You know, it can't always be U.S. and Canada and Russia. It's good to see like a team like Finland and
Realistically, like I don't know, I'm a big fan of legitimizing and bringing back the World Cup of hockey and letting the Olympics go back to being non-NHL just because I think there's more parity. I think it's more exciting. I don't know. This was an exciting, different year. It's fun, but I gotta ask: did any of you guys stay up and watch the women's hockey final again, U.S. and Canada? Man, that was a game.
Yeah. Congrats to Canada for the gold. MPP always shine out. Marie.
I'll let you do it.
Poland.
Yep. Shout out Cavalieri, the U.S. goalie, was like had an ACL tear or something like that the entire time, or like was like an ACL injury or something like that. What an exciting group of U.S. hockey though, with like Hillary Knight, Kendall Coyne Schofield. There's so many.
Brianna Decker got hurt early.
Having Decker out, talk about how one person allows the rest of your lineup to slot.
Yeah.
Confer was cool. Amanda Kessel, like, I don't know, like this U.S. women's team, I love that core. It's so exciting.
So, yeah, I mean, that's the end of the Olympics. Tough. But yeah, nice to see a change in the guard for men's. Canada, always a wagon. So, yeah, tough to go down to them as for the U.S., but, you know, entertaining game nonetheless.
Yep.
I think that's everything that I have on the docket for our show tonight, unless you guys have anything else to add to it.
Nope.
I know we're running a little bit long, almost getting to the 2-hour mark at this point, so I'll go ahead and just start wrapping this up.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so much for a non-news.
Yeah,
show.
exactly. Nice, easy, quick episode.
You know, it's hard when after 2 weeks with the 2 weeks being off, it's like it's good to see the boys again, talk shop, and catch up.
Exactly.
Yeah. Take us home, Jordan.
Yeah.
So for anybody who is still tuning in, watching, or listening to the show, we really appreciate you guys checking us out. If you liked what you listened to or you watched, feel free to give us a like, follow, share, retweet, whatever the social media currency is of choice that you found us on. It helps the podcast grow and it helps us reach more people, which is awesome. If you have any sort of like fan feedback or critique or like discussion topics or anything like that you want us to talk about on the show, feel free to send us a message. We are on all sorts of platforms, whether it be Facebook, on Twitter. We are We have an email address, stickplaypodcast@gmail.com. We're on SoundCloud. Just whatever your platform is, we're probably on there, and we can see your messages. So feel free to send us any sort of like feedback or questions. Stuff like that is fun every once in a while. And this is kind of the slow season right now until the trade deadline happens. I mean, it's not very often like during this time of year that we have blockbuster trades or anything like that to talk about. So this is a slow season. We would love to hear from some of you guys. But yeah, that's it for our show. For your host tonight, Jordan Linscott, and for my co-hosts, Tim Stompanato, David Barnhouse, and Nick LePage. Yes, I got you right this time, Tim.
I was listening.
This has been another edition of the Stick Blade Podcast. You all take care, stay safe, take care of each other, and we will catch you guys all back here next week. Catch you later.
See you later.
See you.